Now, we started this yesterday. I was talking to you about Bernard Marr's list from February of 2022. He was a futurist publishing in Forbes, and I put the link in the comments so that you can take a look at that yourself. But this was his list of 2022 predictions and what we have to look forward to. So I thought with Thanksgiving coming up, let's take a look at what we have to be thankful for with in the world of IT and the world of technology. Just to recap, we did the first 5 yesterday. Computing power would increase, smart devices would proliferate, quantum computing would come, everything was going to be based off datafication and increased datafication, and artificial intelligence and machine learning was going to take over the world, which is all, we talked about all that stuff yesterday, so we won't dig too much into that stuff today. We're going to cover the second half of the list now with starting off with extended reality. So first of all, what is extended reality? I guess it looks like from what we're talking about here, I guess extended reality is the new term for virtual reality and augmented reality. So what's funny is this is still not caught on. And this is a really interesting thing to me because going all the way back to the 90s, I can remember when I was a kid, virtual reality was a thing that it was always right on the cusp. It was always going to happen. Any day now, virtual reality is going to take over. There were TV shows about virtual reality. There were movies about virtual reality. And of course, back then the technology was super primitive compared to what it is today. And it never happened. There used to be mall kiosks where you could play virtual reality games. Because the headsets were gigantic back then. And none of it ever really happened. So then, we move forward and everyone just ceased to exist. And then all of a sudden, about 10 years ago, with the advent of smartphones, people started using the smartphones as kind of virtual reality windows. And that gave everybody the idea of doing these new virtual reality headsets, basically based off of phone technology, which is how we came to Oculus and some of the other headsets that are available today. Most of them now are dedicated devices produced by Oculus and some other companies that work on that kind of stuff. But, and of course, Microsoft has their high-end stuff, and all the phone companies have their, Apple's got their high-end augmented reality stuff. So let's just step back for a second. What are we talking about with augmented reality versus virtual reality? Augmented reality is whenever you take an image, video, or whatever, and then you overlay data on top of that. Now, the idea has always been that this would exist. And what I always think of when I think of this is like if you look back at like movies like The Terminator, you see the Terminator scanning around and it scans a body and it gives the measurements or it says the person's name or something like that. That's what augmented reality is. That could be super handy. That could be super, super useful. Imagine you had special glasses that you could walk around and you would just look at somebody. It would tell you who their name was, where they lived, what they did for a living, what their title is, what their net worth is. I don't know, all kinds of information like that. Or imagine you're imagine you work in someplace like Amazon in their warehouse and you need to pick up a package and the augmented reality would just tell you directions, walk this way, then walk that way. So that's the idea behind augmented reality. And there's been a lot of development in that area. Of course, Microsoft has their Halo. All the phone systems have it. They've got Oculus by Meta has created the metaverse in 2022, but none of it seems to have ever really it's such a strange thing because since I can remember, we've been talking about virtual reality. And none of it ever seems to really come to fruition, which I think is just kind of interesting. But so where are we at in 2022 with virtual reality? It looks to me like in 2022, virtual reality is in the exact same place it was in 1992, which is nowhere. So I don't know. Digital trust is number 7 on the list. And that's blockchain technology, distributed ledgers, non-fungible tokens, and all that kind of stuff. This innovation is beyond Bitcoin, things that are smart, like contracts that allow for you to verify ownerships, NFTs, all that kind of stuff. So that was his prediction in 2022, especially given recent news. I think we can say that that's all dead. A lot of people are going to talk a lot about Bitcoin, NFTs, and all that kind of stuff. But just given the state of cryptocurrency as it is, and the fact that one of the biggest exchanges was proven to be an absolute scam. I mean, it was a Ponzi scheme. There's no way around that. And the question is just how many of these are Ponzi schemes. But blockchain has been the promise to digitally verify things for a while. It hasn't really, taken hold yet. Maybe it will. I don't know. Blockchain's definitely an interesting technology. Just the whole idea of a distributed ledger, that is non-centralized is a great concept. But that also takes us back to yesterday when we talked about quantum computing. That would all just completely unravel if quantum computing was real. So I don't know. I don't know where we're at with that. That one's still up in the air. 3D printing. You can make things with 3D printing that would never have dreamed of a couple decades ago. You'll see transformations in manufacturing and beyond from 3D printing technology innovations, including mass-produced customized pieces. That's where we're getting there. Now, 3D printing is going to continue to develop. It's going to develop more in the manufacturing space, and I believe it's going to develop more in the commercial space that people aren't used to. What people kind of envision with 3D printers, the little desktop 3D printers that they put, and they make like little tchotchkes and toys and stuff like that. I don't believe that that's going to be the future of 3D printing. I think there's literally going to be a time where you're going to be able to print houses. You're going to be able to print boats. You're going to be able to print planes. All this stuff is definitely, I think that's right on the cusp, and that might already be here in some areas. Genomics. So now we're getting into biotechnology. I really don't know what the future of that is with nanotechnology and everything else. All of that kind of stuff is always up in the air. All of that kind of stuff is really fascinating to read into, but that is so far above my pay grade and understanding how any of that kind of stuff works that I am not even going to pretend to understand it. That is, we are an IT company, and I know IT. I do not know genomics, so I'm not even touching that. So number 10 is new energy solutions, and it's hugely important trend among new energy solutions as we tackle climate change, and that's definitely true. There are all kinds of new energy solutions, old energy solutions, ways that technology are finding things to be more efficient, building better batteries all the time, building more efficient technology, more efficient processors, more efficient devices. That's a big deal. That conservation's huge. The batteries technology's huge. And then, of course, reuse of other things. The only problem with energy, whenever you get into a technology discussion with energy, is it always gets kind of muddled up with politics. There's a lot of political issues because energy is so big and so important, and it's so key to a economy that you can't help but get mired in politics. As soon as you mention something like nuclear energy, you're going to be in politics. As soon as you mention something like fossil fuels like coal, then you're going to be in politics. As soon as you mention petroleum, then you're in politics. So that's the one thing that makes it difficult to talk about from a technical standpoint is you're always dealing with politics. So I don't really have a whole lot more to add to that. So looking at the list, what do we have to be thankful for 2022? Well, 2022 has seen nothing really revolutionary, I don't think. I don't think 2022 has seen any big, massive shifts, any gigantic changes in the world. Things just really seem to be kind of plugging along, evolving along. I don't think anybody's going to look back to 2022 as the game-changing year, as the one year that everything changed, or this whole time period as a big change. It seems more like just kind of slow, incremental change with everything. We'll see. I'll be really curious to see. Now, you know what? I take that back a little bit. The one thing that we might look back to, and as I'm looking back on February, so this was in February. So the one thing that I might say that really wasn't predicted is the collapse of the tech industry, that some of the big tech giants. And by collapse, I just mean the restructuring. I mean, Meta's had to shed tons of employees. Of course, Twitter has very publicly shed tons of employees. Lots of other companies like Square and Swift and a bunch of other ones. They've all shed employees. Of course, FTX, if you want to consider that a tech company, that was the cryptocurrency exchange that was used. That was a $1 billion Ponzi scheme, multi-billion-dollar Ponzi scheme. That's a total collapse. So there has been some collapse of the tech sector, which seems to be more around its culture and overhiring and just thinking let the good times roll type of mentality than it really has to do with the technology itself. The technology itself seems to be kind of plugging along, except for virtual reality. Meta has invested a lot of money in virtual reality and a lot of time and effort. And like I say, it's really disappointing because, my childhood fantasy is that the virtual reality will take over and it'll be a fun, exciting time. And, we'll be able to, fly to outer space or do whatever we want to. We'll all be plugged into the matrix and live second lives. But that doesn't seem to be what's happening. And it's probably for the best. People seem to want to live in the real world, and that's great. So we'll see how all that turns out. So this was an overview of the top 10 tech trends for 2022, and it's been good to look back at that from February 2022, from February until now, everything that's happened. It's been a big year, but like I say, not a revolutionary year, just an evolutionary year. So we'll see what happens next.